I don't remember my first drink, but I know I was still in diapers. Mom told me this like it was a cute family story, the way other parents might reminisce about first words or first steps. "You were such a fussy baby," she'd say, stirring her morning vodka into orange juice. "Nothing would settle you down until Grandma suggested a little whiskey in your bottle." Worked like a charm. The smell of alcohol is my earliest memory, not the harsh burn that makes other people wince, but something warm and familiar, like coming home. While other kids got milk and cookies after school, I got apple juice with a splash of rum. "Just a little something to take the edge off," Dad would say, ruffling my hair as he handed me the sippy cup. "You've always been high-strung, just like your mother." I thought every family was like this. When I went to sleepovers at 7 or 8, I'd ask my friends' parents for the special juice, and get confused looks. Their parents would offer regular apple juice or soda, and I'd drink it, but something felt wrong. My hands would shake a little. I'd get cranky and restless. The other kids seemed so calm, so content with their sugar water drinks, while I felt like my skin was crawling. "Some people just need a little help relaxing," Mom explained when I asked why I was different. She was fixing my lunch for school, a peanut butter sandwich and a thermos that I now know contained watered-down wine. "The doctor says you have anxiety, sweetheart. This is medicine." I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my mother. By the time I was 10, I knew exactly which cabinet held the good stuff, and which bottles were just for show when company came over. I could tell the difference between cheap vodka and the expensive kind by smell alone. I knew that wine made me sleepy, whiskey made me giggly, and beer was for when I just needed to take the edge off, after a bad day at school. Other kids had imaginary friends. I had my little flask, a silver thing that Dad gave me for my 11th birthday. "Now you're old enough to be responsible," he said, showing me how to fill it from the bottle he kept in his desk drawer. "Just remember, this is our family business." Other people wouldn't understand. The secrecy made it feel special, important. I was part of something that the other kids couldn't comprehend. When they complained about their parents being strict about bedtimes or candy, I'd think about how lucky I was to have parents who understood what I really needed. High school was when things started to get complicated. I'd show up to first period with my thermos of coffee, half actual coffee, half Kahlua, and feel normal for the first time all morning. My grades were decent, not great, but my parents never complained. "You're doing fine," Mom would say when I brought home C's and D's. "Not everyone is cut out for academics. You've got other qualities." I started noticing that other kids my age were experimenting with alcohol like it was this big, forbidden thing. They'd giggle about stealing sips from their parents' wine or brag about older siblings buying them beer. I felt like an anthropologist watching some strange ritual. They talked about getting wasted and drunk, like these were exciting adventures, while I was just trying to function. "Why do you never want to party with us?" my friend Jessica asked junior year. She was planning some elaborate scheme to get alcohol for the weekend, involving fake IDs and older boyfriends. "You're always so, I don't know, level. Don't you want to let loose sometimes?" I almost laughed. If only she knew that letting loose, for me, meant going 12 hours without a drink. That my idea of rebellion would be drinking plain orange juice with breakfast. That's when I started to realize something was wrong with me. Not wrong like my parents had always said. Not anxiety or being high-strung. Wrong like I couldn't go more than a few hours without feeling sick. Wrong like I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my heart pounding and my sheets soaked in sweat if I didn't have my usual nightcap. I tried to tell Mom about it during one of her rare sober moments. "I think something's wrong with me," I said. "I feel awful when I don't drink." She looked at me with this expression I couldn't read, part guilt, part fear, part something else. "Don't be dramatic," she said finally. "You're fine. Some people just need a little help, that's all. There's nothing wrong with that." But I was starting to suspect there was everything wrong with that. College was supposed to be my fresh start. I got into a decent state school about 3 hours away from home, far enough to feel independent, close enough that my parents didn't worry about losing control. They helped me pack, making sure to include a well-stocked mini fridge and a care package full of small bottles that looked like expensive shampoo but definitely weren't. Remember, Dad said, loading the last box into my car. You know your body better than anyone else. Don't let some college counselor or doctor tell you what you need. They don't understand people like us. People like us. I was starting to hate that phrase. My roommate was a sweet girl from Iowa named Sarah who'd never had more than communion wine. She was fascinated by what she saw as my sophistication, the way I could identify different types of alcohol, my knowledge of mixing drinks, my apparent tolerance for what she considered grown-up beverages. You're so cool, she said, watching me add vodka to my morning orange juice. I wish I could drink like you. I had 2 beers last weekend and felt sick for hours. I wanted to tell her she was lucky. That feeling sick from 2 beers was normal, healthy even. That what she was seeing wasn't sophistication but something much darker. Instead, I just smiled and offered to make her a screwdriver. It was in my introduction to psychology class that I first heard the term, fetal alcohol syndrome. The professor was discussing developmental disorders, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach as she described the symptoms: attention problems, memory issues, poor judgment, problems with the heart, kidneys, bones. After class, I went straight to the library and started researching. What I found made me want to throw up. Article after article about the effects of alcohol on developing brains, about addiction in children, about parents who used alcohol to sedate difficult kids. The word, abuse, kept appearing, and each time I saw it, I felt like I'd been slapped. That night, I called home. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I've been reading about kids who drink. About what it does to them. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Finally, she spoke, and her voice sounded different, smaller, more fragile. Honey, she said, and I could hear ice clinking against glass. You were such a difficult baby. You cried all the time. We just wanted you to be happy. We wanted you to feel better. But Mom, we love you, she interrupted, and I could hear her starting to cry. We've always loved you. We just wanted to help. I hung up the phone and sat in my dorm room, staring at the mini fridge humming in the corner. For the first time in my life, I understood what I was looking at. Not medicine, not help, not love, prison bars. The withdrawal started that same night. I'd made a decision: no more drinks, no more medicine, no more pretending this was normal. I poured everything from my mini fridge down the sink while Sarah was at class, watching 20 years of liquid comfort swirl down the drain. By midnight, I was shaking. By 2 a.m., I was throwing up. By dawn, I thought I might be dying. Sarah found me on the bathroom floor, convulsing and delirious. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and concerned voices. The emergency room was bright white lights and questions I couldn't answer coherently. When they asked about my medical history, about drug use, about how much I'd been drinking, I tried to explain, but the words came out wrong. She's in severe alcohol withdrawal, I heard a doctor tell someone. How old did you say she was? 18? Jesus Christ. They put me on an IV drip and something to stop the seizures. A social worker came by, a kind-faced woman named Patricia who pulled up a chair beside my bed and spoke in the gentle tone people use with trauma victims. Honey, she said, can you tell me about your family? About your home life? So I did. I told her everything: the sippy cups filled with rum, the flask for my 11th birthday, the care packages full of vodka disguised as shampoo. I told her about being called high-strung and anxious, about the special juice that made everything better, about parents who loved me enough to give me exactly what I thought I needed. Patricia's expression grew more horrified with each detail, but she never interrupted, never judged. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. What you're describing, she said finally, is severe child abuse. Your parents gave you a physical dependency on alcohol before you were old enough to understand what that meant. This isn't your fault, and it isn't something wrong with you. You're sick because you were poisoned, systematically, for 18 years. Hearing it said out loud, the word abuse, the word poisoned, broke something inside me. I cried harder than I had since I was that fussy baby my parents couldn't soothe without whiskey. The next few months were hell. Real withdrawal, medically supervised, was nothing like the gentle discomfort I'd felt during short periods without alcohol. My body was relearning how to function without a substance it had never been without. I had seizures. I hallucinated. I spent days curled up in a detox facility, feeling like my skin was on fire and my bones were made of broken glass. My parents came to visit once. They looked smaller than I remembered, older and more fragile. Mom's hands shook as she clutched her purse, probably hiding a small bottle, I realized. Dad couldn't meet my eyes. "We just wanted to help you," Mom said, the same refrain she'd been using my whole life. "We thought we were helping." "I know," I said, and I meant it. Looking at them, I could see their own damage, their own addictions, their own childhood traumas that had never been addressed. They'd given me what they thought love looked like, the only kind of comfort they knew how to provide. It didn't make it right, but it made it comprehensible. "I can't see you for a while," I told them. "I need to get better first. I need to learn who I am without all of this." They nodded, crying, and left. I haven't seen them since, though we exchange Christmas cards now. Brief, careful notes that don't mention the past or the future, just safe pleasantries about weather and health. Recovery was learning everything from scratch. How to sleep without alcohol. How to handle stress without numbing it immediately. How to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of drowning them. I had to learn what my actual personality was like, what I enjoyed when I wasn't chemically sedated, what my real energy levels and moods were. Turns out, I wasn't anxious or high-strung at all. I was actually pretty calm, maybe even a little boring. I liked quiet activities, reading, drawing, long walks. I was good at listening to people, at offering gentle advice. I had been living my entire life as a chemically altered version of myself, and meeting the real me was like getting introduced to a stranger who happened to live in my body. Therapy helped. Group meetings helped more. Sitting in circles with other addicts and hearing their stories made me realize how many different paths lead to the same destination. Some had started drinking in college, others after traumatic events, others just because they liked how it felt. My story was unusual in its details but familiar in its outcome. A life built around a substance, an identity inseparable from addiction. The hardest part, my sponsor told me, is forgiving yourself for something that was never your choice to begin with. She was right. I carried guilt for years, guilt over being a difficult baby, guilt over accepting what my parents gave me, guilt over not recognizing the problem sooner. It took a long time to understand that children trust their parents completely, that I had no framework for understanding what was happening to me was wrong. I'm 25 now, and I've been sober for 7 years. I work as a counselor at a treatment center, specializing in cases involving children and addiction. It's hard work, heartbreaking sometimes, but it feels like the right use of my experience. I still think about drinking every day. Not because I want to escape or numb myself, but because my brain was wired during its most crucial developmental years to expect alcohol. It's like having a phantom limb. I can feel the absence of something that was never supposed to be there in the first place. But I also wake up every morning knowing exactly who I am. I know what I think and feel without chemical filters. I know what brings me joy, what makes me sad, what I'm genuinely afraid of versus what was just withdrawal anxiety. I'm learning to trust my own mind, my own instincts, my own capacity for handling life's difficulties. Sometimes people ask if I'm angry at my parents. The answer is complicated. I'm angry at what happened to me, at the choices they made, at the childhood I lost. But I also understand that they were drowning people who pulled me under while trying to save me. They gave me the only life preserver they knew about, not realizing it was made of lead. Recovery isn't just about stopping drinking. It's about learning to live in a body and mind that were shaped by something that should never have been there. It's about building a life from scratch at an age when most people are just figuring out what they want to do with the foundation they already have. But I'm building it, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of clear-headed sobriety at a time. And for the first time in my life, the person making those choices is actually me.